Under John Adams' rule, two main political parties emerged, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, commonly known as the Anti-Federalists. The Federalists believed in a strong central government to rule over the states and high tariffs to protect domestic factories. The Democratic Republicans, however, believed in a weaker government, stronger state sovereignty, and supported low tariffs to protect rural farmers. Two leaders emerged from these two parties, Alexander Hamilton of the Federalists and Thomas Jefferson of the Democratic Republicans. In Thomas Jefferson's political career, he served as the Ambassador of France, Secretary of State under Washington, Vice President under Adams, and finally, President of the United States of America. Under his presidency, however, he passed laws and committed actions that were both for and against his own party, thus making him a controversial president. As a Democratic Republican, Thomas Jefferson passed laws that benefited his party. One such law decreased the naval and army expenses, which the Democratic Republicans supported very much because they wanted their government to remain neutral in foreign matters, and a bigger military aroused fears of a powerful government like England, with whom they had just ended a war. Secondly, Jefferson eliminated the whiskey tax, a tax to which most states were strongly opposed. One such state, Pennsylvania, had a rebellion in 1791 named the Whiskey Rebellion, in which primarily white poor farmers took arms to fight the federal government over the tax. This ordeal ties into the big military aspect in the United States because the United States military came in with the largest force that they had ever had to squash the rebellion. The Democratic Republicans did not want to have a large military that looked oppressive toward the freedom of the people as they had witnessed during the Whiskey Rebellion. Jefferson also cut the national debt by an impressive 33%, a debt that was accumulated from the Revolutionary War. Lastly, he supported the French Revolution like many others in his party because they believed it was the birth of liberty in France. Although Jefferson took these actions on behalf of his party, there were many controversial laws that would be looked down upon by his party members. Jefferson and his followers believed that the national government only had the powers listed under the Constitution. The Constitution didn't state that the federal government had the power to buy land. So when Jefferson bought the Louisiana Territory in 1803 for $15 million, it was very controversial. His motive behind this acquisition was to benefit the farmers. This stance was strongly supported by the Democratic Republicans. By owning the Mississippi River, farmers from states like Kentucky and Tennessee could ship their produce to New Orleans without any interference from outside governments and at a cheaper rate than traveling through the Appalachian Mountains. When Jefferson first became president, he cut out many taxes but omitted one that was most crucial to his party, the legendary tariff. This tax was very unpopular with Democratic Republicans because the tax protected domestic factories, which at the time were more expensive and cost the farmer dearly for new replacement parts than the average foreign import. Another act that went against his party's belief was when he passed the Embargo Act of 1807. It placed an embargo on all goods being shipped to Europe and all imported goods from England. The Democratic Republicans believed in free trade without any government interference, and this Embargo Act was infringing on their own beliefs. Jefferson was attempting to keep the United States neutral between France and England by punishing both countries for boarding U.S. ships. This would ultimately fail because it never did any harm to France and England, but it did devastate the American economy because shipments to and from Europe were a necessity to merchants making money in New England. This action would cause many of Jefferson's party to dislike him, and 2 years later he passed the Non-Intercourse Act, which resumed trade with foreign countries other than France and England. Though Jefferson sometimes went against his own party and public support for him waned in the last years of his presidency, Jefferson is still looked on today as one of the best and most controversial presidents the United States has ever had.